Marriage is a tool of political strategy for royalty and the nobility. You may ask why. After all, it's a significant milestone, but it doesn't shackle people together physically. It just means that all concerned parties recognize the couple is married. Why would this be a political problem? It is this recognition that is what's important. This information can alter circumstances and become a catalyst for change. Even feuding families will have reason to shake hands if their children marry, offering respite from immediate threats of violence and putting the public at ease. Such guarantees allow everyone to return their full attention to business and agriculture, and causes the economy to boom. This all might sound like a joke, but the marriages of royalty and the nobility have the power to bring this to life, which is why people recognize the seriousness of this affair, and the potential for profit naturally gave rise to the concept of political marriage. It was perfectly normal for a meeting with the senior vassals to be called to discuss a possible marriage between Wayne and the Earthworld empires, the Imperial Princess. It's a fine arrangement. This matter was well received for the most part. The Imperial Princess is a suitable candidate for Prince Wayne. If this union is established, it will secure the alliance between our nations and promise further prosperity. It won't be that simple. Of course, there were those who were ready to give their honest opinion. Without their emperor, the empire is on fire right now. We've been able to keep our distance as an independent ally. That won't be the case if we have ties to the imperial family. There was some truth to that, but it wasn't enough to convince the others. There's already a good chance that we'll be wrapped up in their mess regardless of marriage. Wouldn't it be better for us to unite now? Aye, turmoil or not, the authority of the empire is alive and well. With Kavarin to the west, we must exercise great caution, so at the very least we should establish strong relations with the east. But just look at the difference in strength between us and the empire. If our relationship with them ends up going south, they'll annex us. You sure you aren't saying that because you want your own daughter to be the princess? What was that? Now, let's calm down. This isn't the time to argue. This was the way the meeting continued for a while. One of the vassals turned to Nanim, who had been standing in the corner. Lady Nanim, is the imperial princess going to meet us here, or of her own accord? Nanim nodded and took one step forward with the documents in hand. With their request to discuss marriage, we receive word that the Empire wishes to send an envoy to Natra before the winter sets in, under the pretext of confirming and strengthening our alliance. But the representative is Imperial Princess Lolamina herself, which means this will mark the start of their courtship, giving their highnesses a chance to meet one another. The vassals looked at each other. I suppose you call this proactive on their part. No, it's reckless. Did none of her retainers advise against this? It would have been one thing if there was an official engagement, but they were still in the preliminary discussion stages. To extract a royal from a heavily guarded palace to meet an unfamiliar member of a foreign royal family on their land? It was as ill-advised as walking into a forest at night in nothing but underwear. Though the empire was going through some internal turmoil, their power had to have been well anchored strongly enough that they must have been certain nothing scandalous would happen in this situation. But place an alluring woman in front of any healthy man and he'll give in to temptation, no question. It'd be ludicrous not to consider the risk of a premarital affair. Indeed, the Empire must have calculated this possibility, and yet Princess Loelmina was still going to pay them a visit. What are your thoughts, Your Highness? The senior vassal's attention turned toward Wayne, who had remained silent at the head of the table. Wayne looked at each vassal in turn and shrugged his shoulders comically. We should fix the cracks in the outer wall before Her Highness gets here. The room erupted into laughter. Yes, we do have to keep up appearances, more or less. Where's the money for the paint going to come from? Why not try covering it up with snow? Good idea. Then it'll just melt away on its own accord in spring. The vassals joked and bantered with one another for some time. Once they finally got a hold of themselves. Wayne continued, I'm sure this has been a shock to everyone. Honestly, I felt the same way. I'm thinking the world might come even tomorrow, that this was all a mistake. Stifled laughter threatened to break out among the vassals again. Wayne pressed on, but if there is no mistake, I want to look into this with optimism. Their faces tensed. Wayne had only expressed his opinion, but as their master, he had enough power over all concerned to put them in their place. There's an undeniable concern that we'll be dragged into the Empire's mess, but forging a connection with the Imperial family would provide huge advantages. We can't let this chance pass us by. Wayne paused to give a wry grin. That said, I have no idea if I can even handle being a married man yet. Well, there is no one more blessed by wisdom and benevolence than you, Your Highness. I'm certain the princess will realize upon her arrival that she's made the right decision in choosing you. The vassals nodded in unison, and Wayne beamed. Well then, let's make sure to give a warm welcome to Her Highness. I'm counting on you all. Understood. With that, the preparations for the arrival of the Imperial Princess went into full swing. A little later, I seriously want to turn her down. Wayne was back to clutching his head in his office as usual. This is a trap, 100%. It's plain weird that the princess would want to discuss marrying me. Geez, think about the gap in power. Let's look at an example of two earls. In the context of the greater peerage system, both are the same rank, but depending on their individual assets and military might, it's not at all rare for for a more powerful one to be treated with more reverence. The same principle is true for royal families. Royals have a one-of-a-kind status in their country, and a bloodline that puts them above every other citizen, but their true value is largely dependent on the might of their nation. If the gap in power between nations is astronomical, it will be reflected in the standing of their royal families, and this was undoubtedly the case between Natra and the Empire. Anyone with common sense could see the Imperial Princess was out of Natra's league. Yet the reality was that a marriage proposal had been dropped in their lap. In other words, there must be a serious political reason behind this decision, Ninim said. Wayne groaned. Yeah, that makes the most sense. What do you think that motive is? My guess is that it has something to do with the disputes among the factions backing the various imperial princes. At present, the three princes of the Empire were vying for the throne. They hadn't resorted to the use of force yet, but there didn't seem to be any end in sight, and there were rumors that it was only a matter of time before civil war broke out. I'm guessing the princess aligned herself with one of those three factions. Maybe they're sending her to form a tie with Natra in the hopes of giving their faction a leg up in this race. Seems legit, Wayne agreed with a nod. Well, that's going to be the lie that they want us to believe. Ninim shot him a puzzled look. A trap? You're saying there's a greater reason? Yeah, and to take it a step further, I'd say they have no plans of going through with the marriage at all. Wayne observed Ninim widen her eyes in his periphery as he continued on bitterly. I'm sure you agree, Ninim, that coming here before the marriage is set in stone is bonkers. It does seem suspicious. Well, why are they acting this way? Because there's an underlying reason why they want to reach Natra before winter. They prepared an envoy as a pretext for laying the groundwork, and even set up the talks of marriage to further their hidden agenda. If they're taking it this far, we can't possibly refuse their arrival. Ninim folded her arms. As Wayne said, if it'd been either an envoy or a proposal, they might have been able to deny the Empire's offer, but not if they were pushing both at the same time. To do otherwise would be to allow their alliance to fall to pieces, and the major red flag is that the marriage hasn't been settled yet. If the ultimate goal is to align Natra with a faction, they should be stubbornly pushing this marriage on us rather than dragging things out. It's not like we can refuse. Think of the power difference, Wayne went on. But they haven't done that, even though they're taking on a huge risk. I mean, their princess is visiting a foreign land. They'll definitely make some excuse, like incompatible personalities, to let them back out last minute. Starting to sound fishy? Ninim involuntarily moaned. When he put it like that, there was a ring of truth to it, but it did raise one question. Then why would they go so far and come all this way to Natra? Wayne grinned. I have no idea. He continued as Ninim glared at him reproachfully. Well, what do you want to do? I've looked at it from every angle and I can't figure it out. My best lead is that they specified their arrival to be before winter, so I can only assume it has to be pretty urgent. Wayne grumbled as he put his chin in his hands. If the marriage was a wash from the very beginning, it'd be ridiculous for us to scrape together a budget to wine and dine them. I just want to tell them to stay home. But your position won't allow that. Sadly, Wayne clicked his tongue in annoyance. Geez, these pranksters have rotten personalities for sure. We're already in a bad state after going to war. How are they expecting us to come up with more money? Wayne looked up at the ceiling irritably. Is it all right to keep this from your vassals? I plan on telling a few, but I'll let the majority simply prepare for their arrival. We've got to show the official envoy proper respect, no matter their endgame. If I'm being totally honest, my vassals don't know how to employ psychological tactics to uncover ulterior motives and remain outwardly hospitable at the same time. Well, I suppose it's not completely untrue. Ninim didn't dislike Wayne's vassal lords, who were what some might call simple, honest souls, for better or worse. By the way, is there a chance that you're overthinking things? Sure, but that doesn't explain why the princess is coming to see me directly. Ninim thought for a moment, then hit a fist against her palm in a sudden revelation. Like, for example, she could have fallen in love upon seeing you looking all hot on the battlefield and... Whoopsie, I was about to voice something impossible. I would have liked you to finish that thought, Miss Ninim. I have feelings too, you know. Oh, don't get it twisted. You're the young crown prince regent who led us to glorious victory in the battle against Marden, loved by your subjects, myself included. You're a magnificent, average-looking guy. Oh, come on, if you're gonna hype me up this much, the least you can do is call me hot. As the lead retainer, committing slander would be indecent of me. You're always lying to me. Who do you think you are? Me. Ninim squished up the corners of her mouth with her fingers into a smile without the slightest hint of fear. Wayne gave a low grr and retorted, All right, I've got an idea. An idea. I'm going off your idea. The princess has fallen in love with me because I'm a hottie. What? Ninim's face was a mix of exasperation and confusion. You know my luck has been terrible lately. Now that I'm looking about it, the Emperor passed away at the worst possible moment. The mine is all dried up. Marden got destroyed. You had shoddy luck before all that, too. Shut it. Anyway, it's about time I bounced back. Lady Luck is smiling down on me, and I'll be blessed with an innocent princess who finds me totally irresistible, and a life of leisure and luxury. Hiya! Ugh. Ninim's open hand jabbed Wayne in the ribcage. If you calm down, you didn't give me much of a choice. Ninim continued as Wayne rubbed his side. In any case, let's sound things out as we fine-tune our plan for the Empire. We can rethink things once we've gathered more information on what the Imperial Princess could be up to, if anything. Yeah, I'll think about where I can scrounge up some funds. With their plan in order, Ninim turned on her heel. Wayne called out as she was walking away. Ah, by the way, Ninim. Yes, whatever could it be? Am I really not hot? Ninim stared blankly for a moment, then gave a small smile as she turned up her mouth with her fingers. Your Majesty is a magnificently average-looking guy.